Hi everyone, welcome to second lecture in the second week. First week was really great. We had a good time already. I saw a lot of great work and interesting ideas coming out of everybody in the class. This week we're going to start talking about kind of how and why we exist. Information systems are important because one, they put organizations on the mission track. The mission is always about what does the user want. The ultimate goal is either the sales for some organizations, or IT people might think about getting the information from point A to point B. Sometimes it's also about just decision support for a CIO, making that idea of whether or not to buy an ad, not buy an ad, stock a shelf, not stock a shelf, open a ski lift, not open a ski lift. It's knowledge, it's giving people power. That's what we're doing. We're collecting zeros and ones. We're creating a methodology to transfer information for knowledge, to help organizations to make decisions. Knowledge comes in kind of two forms. I just want to touch on this. It's explicit knowledge. That's that stuff we're getting right now from my lecture. It's written down, it's hard, it's coded. We can transfer it easy on a piece of paper or an email. It's a book, it's a digital record, it's files, it's zeros and ones a lot of times. It might be some code or free code that you got, or something you're writing that you can hand off. Versus tacit knowledge is that stuff we've learned. We don't think about a lot of times, how do we learn not to touch a hot plate? These are the fireside stories. Maybe it's a sales manager or a senior salesperson lecturing a younger one at a luncheon, saying, hey, how did you get these sales? How did you be such a success? Maybe it's one of your peers teaching you, or you watching one of your peers code, learning JavaScript, API REST, something different. Maybe you went to a conference, the speaker talked. Or maybe it was like me learning how to fly fish. I watched my grandfather walk up to a stream and raise his arm to make sure the shadows cast behind him. I didn't know why until I walked up to the stream in the wrong direction and the sun was behind me and the shadows hit the water and all the fish scattered. It's a method to say, hey, we're coming, or hey, you don't know I'm here. The same as he looked at the bugs in the stream. He crouched down real low and walked back and tied a little fly to look just like him. Make sure the sun was on his face and the shadows were to his back. Through the line of the water where the water just ended bubbling, there's a nice cool pool, because that's where all the fish go, because there's the most oxygen in that area, and the bugs are hatching in the cool pools, and boom, caught a trout. It might be a tractor repair or a car repair. My mentor learned how to repair tractors by watching his father growing up on an old-fashioned farm where they milked dairy cows. If something broke, they had to fix it, so he had to learn how to change a tire, fix the engine. He watched him hold the light in certain ways and change the oil this way and use this wrench on that part. There was nothing wrote down at the time, but he learned from tacit knowledge. A lot of people learn this way too in organizations about how to develop IT projects. Home Depot is a great one, as Schneider's Hanover. They were looking at the massive amount of sales when they first started in these box houses, and they were having restocking issues, both of them, Home Depot especially. And they started figuring out if they put in a simple idea of RFID chips, they can track when a product is bought right away and restock the shelf immediately. So if a customer comes in, they're not waiting, or they don't get turned away because there's not enough 2x4s. They always have a constant in and out flow. They're using the data. So this automated methodology creates a great investment to put in 30 to 40 data programmers into the Home Depot warehouse itself. They started managing more data by learning to track customers and understand when they bought 2x4s or when they bought fans. They started recording this with handheld scanners, and they would check out your items for you personally. Well, it was about a way to get a hold of you and understand you and keep some data on you. Oh, you're doing your own home improvement. You're building your own kitchen. They started finding this, and they started doing tools like, well, let's bring them in to teach them how to build so they buy more. And as they did that, they learned patterns of what women shoppers liked and what men shoppers liked, and they would move things around the aisles for this. They called it their do-it-yourself video series, where they put it out to attract you to the store by showing you the parts. but it was also a way to capture data, because as you came to the classes, you had to sign up and give information out. You had to take more training. You had to buy more tools, and they would catalog everything and get you excited about coming back. Collaborative knowledge is something a little different. We think about this in Google Hangouts. We'll be doing this in the senior capstones in your class and project, to where you share documents real-time online or talk to each other virtually. It's a way to improve communication, create competitive advantage. There's also partnerships and innovation in IT. What do you think about this? UPS and HP are kind of leading this area. Amazon and everyone's picking up their ideas. HP started collecting data about where people buy ink cartridges. And they found in particular areas there was a massive need, because of the population and interest in their products, to speed up the sales and improve it. Instead of shipping to UPS and UPS ships to you, they started storing all their ink cartridges in key locations closer to where their key market sales were. So now UPS becomes a warehouse for them. They reduced inventory on their site, space needed, workers there, and put people into the places at UPS to help them out. UPS in turn collected data on this and understood more sales and understood where to hire more people and get more drivers, and they started looking at better routes. So they started tracking data on key customers and condensing their shipments so that shipments would go together. Together they created a partnership to make a better client experience for HP and their partners. Business processes are what we're doing here. We don't think of it as a functionality idea about ways to distribute knowledge, improve product and innovation, but we are. We do it in the assembly lines, whether it's robotic or human. We might catalog how many hours and keep data on an individual employee and how fast they work, how slow they work, or how much they train, which changed manufacturing process. Sales uses to track customers, to understand when you want to buy your Christmas presents, early or later, or understand whether or not that you're interested in doing something special during the holiday seasons, because everybody has a different celebration today. They look at identifying customers and what they do. It might be when you travel for vacations, or where, or when you might be likely to buy a travel vacation if you're working for a site like that. The creditors look at how much you're selling and when they can advance you credit and when not. A predictor to understand whether or not their investment into your company or stakeholders' investments into your project is actually a viable idea. Human Resources does the hiring and evaluating of IT people and everyone else in a company. On the idea of when we work for people, just to throw this in, Buhlman and Dill came up with the structural idea of leadership. There's kind of 4 I want you to keep in mind as you start thinking about jobs and internships, where you want to work and what type of leader you want to work for. It really makes a difference in a culture and a place. The structural is the kind of dad's idea, I call it. You work for your father or someone else's father. You have deep roots in it. You get instantaneous culture and connectivity, hands-on. You get more opportunities to exceed. You get ideas and you bring it to the boss right away instead of 14 people or a stakeholder. The human resources places are the larger. They might be the Home Depot or the Lowe's or one of these larger companies in the business market in our area. You might work for insurance companies that are global, but they hire based on need and qualifications, and you're a number. The political government idea, most people know this, to where companies are very political, and they're managed a lot of times by board of governors, to where they come in and make the decisions on hiring and firing and investing, and they do this all for stock values. The last is kind of that very persuasive person. You might think of it as the church leader. We don't think of churches a lot of times as leaders or business leaders, but they are those people. But they're also the same people that motivate you. They get you excited. They want you to join. They're the Tony Hsieh's of Zappos. They're the Steve Jobs of Apple that was brought into a company that he started and became this persuasive, beautiful leader and passionate, and then he was fired. He started his own other company and found out that Apple needed him more. They brought him back, and he became even more persuasive in leading that team. We see this all over the board with companies like this. Hewlett-Packard was one. General Electric. They all had great leaders, very persuasive leaders. We see this at our university. We have a great leader. Transaction process systems, or TPS. A little bit about how we use this data and what we're doing and what leaders think about. These are kind of the daily records. They're the things we conduct business with. And I like to say it's the sales slip. It codes what you bought, who you are as a consumer, and your purchase, and you get a record. Or you're paid out by your employer. It's a way of conducting and keeping business. It's shipping record databases. These are all things that we'll build on a daily basis, and a lot of key programmers are working on. It might be school records, whether you got an A or a B in this class, and how many classes you've taken, so your advisor knows what you're doing. Management information systems is what starts getting fun. It's when we start being able to make decision modeling or practices for those middle managers. It's a decision support system is what we really get invested in. It's a way to look at data and understand and make process changes or decisions. You might want to do rapid sales in the month of July for beach towels because you've watched the data and found that you sell a lot of beach towels on Amazon because everybody's flocking to the sun. It might be a way to look at scheduling. You want to know when to invest in police forces in a particular time or area, so they'll collect data on crime to determine this and when to ramp up police forces in a certain area. This happened in New York City in the 80s, and they started putting a lot more police forces in Brooklyn when they saw an escalation in drug and crime. It might be the idea of collecting data at a casino. You say, well, why would we do that? Think about casinos in Vegas. They invest so much in data and control. From the chip cards that you put in your machines, it tells you when you play, how long you play, who you're playing with. It tells you how much you'll spend, what you eat, everything about your life when you invest time at Vegas or any of these big casinos. They transfer and sell that information to other places and other areas of investment that they work with restaurants and hotels. Vail is interesting to where they started collecting data to understand a system of how they could make their clients happier to come there. They put RFID chips in all the passes so they knew when you went to the lifts, when you were done skiing, how long you were on them, and when they could staff more people. And they also knew when they should have an investment into larger amounts of rental skis by the amount of people coming in and out from the tickets at what days and times. Very interesting idea how we can use this data to make information systems and overall decisions to support a business. The executive support really gets into that dashboard delivery where everything's coming together. They might be looking at Vail at external weather factors as part of their data system and analytics. Here they might want to know, well, there was 7 inches of snowfall last night in Vermont, and if I'm in one of our ski resorts that are our sister resorts there, we probably want to hire more people in this month of January. Versus we might want to lay people off come May. They're enterprise systems. They do this resource planning to help integrate business and process and manufacturing all into one. It's not just about us building code, but it's about building code and databases to make decisions to support their leadership. Supply chain management is pretty interesting. A lot of you might get interested into this. One of the things we don't think about is relationship building. In databases, we do this a lot of times for clients. And I'll show you a small scale. There's a small manufacturer in Pennsylvania who makes aluminum posts and rails. Most of their distributors are all around the world. A lot of them are in the South, and they've discovered that by building relationship databases, they know when to manufacture more or less aluminum fence for the South just based on the relationships and how much these distributors purchased. They also ask their distributors, or ask their carpenters and clients when they would want it, and why they would want it. And they collected all this data to make better decisions about making aluminum. Federal Signal Corporation is an interesting company. They create the light bars on cop cars as one of their key parts. They found out that they can make the internal parts, the rotors, quick and effectively instead of buying them from somewhere else because they have less problems. They tested the ideas and they used different databases to actually accumulate a valuable knowledge on the analytics of whether or not they should keep up or hire more people and do things themselves. They also looked at how they can get the products to the actual clients, police officers, faster. So they teamed up with Ford Motor Company to supply them with the parts and the pieces they need to build police cars and sell directly to police officers in a tandem idea. And they did the same thing with Three Guys Trucking to build fire trucks. So they kept databases on firehouses all across the country to understand when parts fail most often or how long, and to restock them right to the guys building the trucks or fixing the problems. Pretty interesting data collection. Customer relations systems, they're great ways to optimize one thing, revenues. Help a client get to their goal or sales. Marketing is used today on this very heavily to understand when someone's selling in what area. Why do they do this? Well, they don't want to place an ad in Wisconsin for snow shovels in July. So they're able to look at when sales are happening in these areas and when to predict to put snow shovels on different shelves, like at Home Depots or Lowe's or hardware stores, or to ship them to manufacturers in the areas that actually distribute these snow shovels if they're working in that idea. It collects relevant knowledge. You might think about this as sales experience. Salesmen often collect data on who they sell to. It helps them understand the experience in the end, whether or not they like to purchase, and if they can repeat sell. E-business and e-commerce are great things we're building today. It's also great for small innovation and innovation decisions because it helps everyone understand their clients or their goals better. The more data we mine and collect and analyze. A lot of the databases and systems you guys will code and build are just to support single ideas, or they may be larger ones to understand curves for marketing. Marketing and public relations, or almost in all corporations, will ask you to do this as well. Importantly, I like to look at Zappos, and I want you guys to start thinking about where I want to work. You might not want to work for a giant company, or a company that you do work for. You might want to think about, if it's larger, what's the culture? If I'm going to be someone processing data and creating databases or software engineering, I want to be in a culture that's cool. Tony Hsieh created the kind of ultimate cool company in Zappos, to where he created, from his mindset of building a database on customers when he sold pizza by a single slice, to try to sell more. He expanded out, and now he's in the Zappos, to where he created a culture of making sure customers are happy by collecting data on them and talking to them. He hired over 400 sales associates that just do data entry. They collect everything. When you call in, they'll just talk to you on the phone. They'll say, how you doing? What's the weather like? What kind of socks do you like? Anything to keep you on the phone to get more data from you and keep you happy. And if they can get a sale, they ask you why. And if they do sell it, they send it to you instead of 2-3 days overnight, so you're super happy. But the culture is what I want you to see, and look at some of this stuff on this little 60 minutes clip I'm going to play a little bit of, to understand how different cultures and atmosphere really change your mindset on where you want to work and open your mind up. You might want to work for a Zappos, or you might want to work for a bank. Take a look at some of these people and understand that most of them are all IT programmers.
Hello, and thank you for calling Zappos.com.
Sales associates dressed as barmaids.
How's everyone doing? Are you being safe?
Spider-Man in the cafeteria. Racing toy cars in the middle of the office. What's going on here?
Welcome to the zoo.
What you are witnessing is a social experiment by Tony Hsieh, the entrepreneur and mastermind behind Zappos, the online shoe company. His revolutionary way of running a business has made Zappos into a $1.2 billion powerhouse. And he got there with the guiding principle: great things will happen if you make employees happy. It's like a playground. I mean, there are balloons, there are whistles. Does that help business?
We think it's important for employees to have fun, and that drives employee engagement. And companies with strong cultures tend to outperform the ones that don't have strong cultures.
Shay's hugely successful company sells over 1,000 brands of shoes in just about every style, size, and color, shipped 24 hours a day, as many as you like, and it's free shipping both ways. At Zappos headquarters in Henderson, Nevada, outside of Las Vegas, no dour corporate cubicles here. Instead, employees are cheerful and downright zany. And no CEO corner office. Instead, Tony Shay sits in the middle in his own cubicle next to his assistant. You want your people you hire to be, in your words, a little weird. What does that mean?
One of our core values is to create fun in a little weirdness. We really recognize and celebrate each person's individuality. We want their true personality to shine in the workplace.
Tony Shay has been a maverick from an early age, the son of Taiwanese parents with high expectations.
My parents wanted me to get good grades and eventually become a lawyer or a doctor.
But Tony launched his own little rebellion before he hit double digits. Your parents wanted you to learn musical instruments, but you deceived them. What did you do?
I really did not enjoy playing musical instruments, so I would play recordings of me playing the piano while my parents were still in bed, so they thought I was practicing.
Do you play any instruments to them?
And I can pretend to.
Shay began to show an instinct for business at just 9 years old.
I had this idea of buying a lot of worms, and then I would grow my own, and then I could eventually sell worms.
What happened?
Maybe a week or two later, all the worms had escaped. So that was the end of my worm farm business.
Good grades got him into all the top universities, but he went with his parents' choice, Harvard. You didn't go to any classes. How come you still got A's?
Reading the material on my own or getting notes from friends.
Is it true that one of your courses was Mandarin Chinese, but you already spoke Mandarin Chinese?
Yes, it was first year Mandarin Chinese.
I don't know whether we should be very proud of you or whether you're going to tell young people, go to college and never go to school.
I actually encourage them to take the money they would have spent on college to start businesses instead. If your ultimate goal is to be an entrepreneur.
Not one to let college get in the way of commerce, Shay made fast money selling fast food.
Got on the subway, went one stop, bought frozen McDonald's burgers, took a taxi back, and cooked them and sold them to students.
How much money did you make?
$5,000 or $10,000.
After graduating, Shay's first big move was launching an advertising website from his basement called Link Exchange. It grew quickly, but so did Tony's unhappiness. As it got more successful, that's when you didn't want to do it anymore. Why not?
It wasn't a fun place to work at anymore.
So you sold it. How much did you get when you sold Link Exchange?
$265 million.
He was set for life, but then someone approached him with the idea of selling shoes online. He said, sounded like the poster child of bad internet ideas. You were not interested in shoes.
I'm actually still not interested in shoes.
My point is, I wanted to see how far your career can go and how different you should be thinking right now, and where you can think from, and what you could do right now to start your own business, your own opportunities. We're doing that in a capstone, but I want you to start thinking on your own and seeing a guy that's hugely successful, started multiple little businesses, started doing his own marketing, database business, and he had no knowledge of it. He went to Harvard, but didn't go to Harvard. He worked every which way he could to get other opportunities invested. So the idea of roles, I want you to think about these. It's not just something that you're dead set in stone. Life changes. Yes, you can be the programmer, the guy who creates the software, and you can love it for the rest of your life and live in a controlled environment in a cubicle. But if you're going to do that, think about the environment you want to be in. Is it exciting? Are you going to want to go to work every day for the next 35, 40 years and be around a culture that's just silent? Maybe that's you. That's great if that's what it is. So you need to look for that. Or is it something that Tony Shay's created to keep himself excited and other programmers? If you're going to be a system analyst, you're going to think about translating problems and solving problems. So you want to look at a place that's using big systems to where you can get engaged, and look for these problems. If you're a manager, you want to think about what it means to be an IS manager and a team leader. Maybe you try this at the capstone level, starting database building here and working with agile teams. And me. If you want to be that chief information officer, you got to think about understanding data on a bigger scale, data analytics, and start looking for classes to take now to understand how to do this. In marketing courses, it's a business courses to oversee how to make decisions in the IT world. You want to be a security officer, start getting engaged now. Get a mentor in a local bank or somewhere interesting who does security on a higher level, and let them help you understand policy and the way it's effective. You want to be a policy officer, start getting engaged in the legal aspect more so. Maybe you take a cross course in the business side to understand compliances in the business world, and take and really engage in our legal IT course and understand all this. A lot of people are interested in that data officer, the protection, the maximizing value for that CIO that you'd work hand in hand with to report to stakeholders. Some of the coolest people are the ones that work just straight with end users. People on the outside of the group, and they do user task analysis and testing. There's many different roles I want you to start looking into and looking at them in large scale and small scale businesses to see what you like in culture in businesses as well. Gang, I hope you enjoyed this. That Zappos piece is on YouTube. You can type in 60 minutes interview with Tony Shays or Zappos, and you'll find it if you want to continue watching some more of that. But I wanted you to see the culture he created there at Zappos, and how being an engineer or being a data entry specialist or an IT software network person could be very different in the place that you work. Maybe you're dressed up as Spider-Man or Superwoman. I don't know. I hope you have a job that you love soon. But I want you to start thinking about these different IT roles. Have a great day, everyone. We'll talk again soon.